Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are completely ditching those dry, boring textbook grammar rules. Seriously, throw them out. Instead, we're diving into a really fun story about two language partners, Jack and Sarah. Jack is having a hilariously frustrating time trying to explain his absolutely terrible day, and Sarah steps in to save him. She uses some beautiful British English to show him how to paint a full, three-dimensional picture of his day using just three simple words.
It all starts with that one simple everyday question. How was your day? You know the one. Well, Jack tries to answer this, but he completely tangles himself up in knots. He's mixing up his past tense words, getting super frustrated, and honestly, his story just isn't making any sense. It's a struggle so many language learners face, right? But seeing his frustration, Sarah steps in. She knows Jack doesn't need another confusing grammar lesson. Nope, he needs a framework for telling a story.
The very first part of her secret method is the word was. Was simply equals your condition. Think of it exactly like a static photograph. If you snap a picture of a moment in time, nothing is moving, right? The action is totally paused. So, when you use was, you are just setting the scene. You're describing the state of things exactly as they are in that frozen frame.
Now, in stark contrast, Sarah, switching to this incredibly crisp, beautiful British accent to really emphasize her point, introduces the second element, went. If was is a frozen photograph, went is a moving video. It's all about movement, travel, and logistics. It describes your actual body moving through space toward a destination. It's getting from point A to point B.
And that brings us to the final, and honestly, probably the most important piece of the puzzle, felt. Now, this word has absolutely nothing to do with the physical world outside. Zero. Felt is entirely internal. It's all about the reactions of your heart and your mind to what's going on around you. It describes your inner emotions, not the physical logistics of your day.
Let's actually put this into practice. Imagine a classic bad day scenario. You're sitting in your car, the red brake lights are glowing right in front of you, horns are honking everywhere, and you're literally not moving an inch. Jack immediately gets this. To describe this perfectly static, unmoving condition, you just say, I was stuck in traffic. Boom. The word was perfectly captures that frozen, frustrating moment. Or think about a rough Monday morning at the workplace. We've all been there. The coffee machine is broken, people are running around, papers are flying everywhere, and the phone literally won't stop ringing. To describe this heavy overall situation, you don't list off every individual action. You describe the state of the room. The office was chaotic. Once again, it's that static photograph of the condition.
Section 1. The moving video went.
Okay, so now it's time to press play on that moving video. Jack really gets into the role play here. He dramatically describes waking up in an absolute panic at 8:45 a.m., jumping out of bed, running to his car, and driving incredibly fast. To capture this frantic travel from his house to the office, he uses the movement word. I went to work late. Notice he isn't describing his emotion or his static state here. He's strictly describing the travel, the physical journey to the building. Let's look at another one. Imagine Manager David is stuck in a terribly noisy, argumentative meeting. He's officially had enough, so he stands up, opens the door, and walks out to get some fresh air. How do we describe this? He went outside to relax. His destination is outside, and using went completely cements that concept of physically relocating to a brand new space.
Section 2. The inner heart, felt. Now, Jack admits that explaining emotions in a second language feels pretty complicated, but Sarah paints a really vivid picture to show just how simple it actually is. Imagine standing in front of 50 people, about to give a massive presentation. Your hands are shaking, your stomach is doing literal flips. How do you describe this? I felt stressed. The stress isn't a physical place you travel to, and it isn't the room itself. The stress is entirely internal. It's your heart reacting to the situation. Let's consider poor John. John shared a brilliant idea in a meeting, but his boss completely talked over him and just moved on to the next topic. Ouch! How did John experience this? He felt ignored. The crucial point here is that felt strictly describes John's emotional reaction. The meeting was the situation, but feeling ignored, that is the internal response of the heart.
And this leads us to an incredibly powerful quote. I felt emotionally drained. When you focus on your inner feelings, rather than just rattling off a boring list of where you went and what you did, you create a much deeper, more native-sounding connection with the person you're talking to. It truly brings the whole story to life. Section 3. The Funny Error Lab. All right, welcome to the Error Lab. Let's fix some hilarious everyday mistakes language learners make. First up, a classic. I was to work late. Jack realizes immediately why this sounds so incredibly wrong. You just cannot mix a static condition with physical movement. If you traveled to a destination, you absolutely must use the video word, I went to work late. If you're just describing your state of being, you drop the destination entirely and just say, I was late. Next up is the sheer absurdity of mixing emotions with travel. Imagine saying, I felt to my office. It's such a hilarious image, right? Trying to somehow emotionally feel your way down the street. Offices require physical movement, guys, so the correction is super simple. I went to my office. And finally, we have I went stressed. Look, you cannot pack your bags and book a ticket too stressed. It is not a city on Google Maps because it's an internal emotion. It demands the heart word. So the correct phrasing is always I felt stressed. Section 4. Building a 3D bad day. Having successfully survived the Error Lab, it's time for the ultimate test, the golden rule. Look, English is not about memorizing a massive, intimidating grammar board filled with confusing exceptions. It's simply about painting a vivid, three-dimensional picture for your listener. You set the condition with was, you show the physical travel with went, and you reveal the emotion of the heart with felt. In a final role play, Jack flawlessly describes his terrible day. Listen to this amazing flow. I was late. I went to the office stressed. The office was chaotic. I felt exhausted. I went home drained. By using all three elements together, Jack sounds incredibly natural. Delivering this in perfect, confident English, he proves he no longer needs to overthink the grammar. He's just telling a great story. And that brings us to the end of today's framework. Now, I want to pass Sarah's challenge directly to you. Skip the dry rules. Think about it. How was your last bad day? Describe your own 3D bad day in the comments using these 3 magic words. Paint us a picture of your condition, your movement, and your heart. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep telling those stories.